The one thing that I love more about drifting than anything else is the social aspect or the family aspect to each event. I mean, I think if a lot of people were to admit it, the social aspect of drifting is nearly why they're still drifting, because it's such a bunch of characters. You have people from all walks of life, people that are, you know, some not so rich, some really rich, some from different countries, some, you know, mechanically minded, some not. You have everything from doctors to school kids. And it's very rare in life that you get such a mix of characters that makes it very entertaining. You learn a lot about people. And what happens is you create this bond, which is, you know, created from your love of the sport, and it's universal. So everybody speaks that language and everybody's on the same page. And we've witnessed things over the years in Irish drifting where people will, you know, kill themselves to get other people back on the track. That doesn't happen in any other sport. It doesn't happen in any other motorsport. These guys all want everyone to have as good a weekend as possible. That's very selfless. And I think that's something that I would never want to see change. And it's totally unique to Irish drifting of how much passion there is to make sure everybody has a good weekend, because everyone knows how much everyone else is putting into it and how much sacrifices they're making. And it makes me very proud to watch that.
Hi, I'm Mike Leeson, I'm the Operations Manager for Drift Games. It means everything to a driver to do well at the weekend, because they put so much time, effort and money into the cars. They spend nights, hours, days building these cars with their friends, their family, in garages with very limited supplies beside them. They want to go out, they want to win. The first round is most important. Everyone wants to do well to get that good jump in the championship, and it can be very disheartening if you don't get a good start to the season.
Ready on 5.
So we're about to go live. This is the nerve-wracking part for me, because it's just you and the microphone, and you got to get all these people hyped up. You got to make sure that crowd is amped, and make sure it's pumped, make sure everybody's ready and excited and standing up and clapping before we go into the battles. It's the nerve-wracking part, but you know what? Let's get this show underway. Here we go, live to the world. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Mondello Park. You having a good time?
Try to catch me howling at the moon.
My first impression of drifting, when I came into it, I wasn't a fan. I saw some cool videos, and then within a few weeks I was at a drift event, so I didn't know any background to anything. And you see all these cars with big stickers, sponsors everywhere, all designed up, and you kind of gives the impression that there's all money behind it, all these logos on these cars. It's like these are professional racing drivers, and you learn quick enough that's not the case, and it's self-funded people of families and brothers and the people that own garages kind of thing doing all the work themselves, and it's almost like a false perspective of what it's actually like.
Without sponsors, it's next to impossible. This year we've had some good sponsors as well, and it's still a struggle.
Mum and Dad have pumped so much into me and Jack. It's like any motorsport, that's probably the hardest thing to do in every motorsport, is to be able to make a living out of it.
Well, in our team, it's all family support. My father, he's constantly on the road doing all this stuff for us.
For some reason, if you talk to any pro driver on the grid, they'll be like, oh, I'm stone broke, I have no money. And then they need to buy a part for a car, and it's like €3,000–4,000. And the next day they've bought. And you're like, I was just talking to that guy yesterday and he said he had no money. So I'm not too sure like what it is of like how pro drifters do their finance, but it does come out of somewhere, I guess.
In Irish drifting, there's always been a concrete wall. It does literally from the first event ever held in Ireland, it was on a small oval concrete wall. My first lap ever, I was in the concrete wall, I think, in my first event. Having walls at an event is second nature to us now. That's totally fine. There's no issues whatsoever. Some people do have issues with it, but maybe they shouldn't drift anymore if that's the case in Ireland.
But for me, going into the event, launching it at walls and stuff, if I don't come back at the end of the event with something broken, I don't think I've done a good enough job, you know.
You don't ever really think of it from a safety standpoint. I mean, I've never sat in a car and thought, I wonder if I'm going to get hurt here. You know, I never do that. I am thinking about how am I going to get this fixed again when this is inevitably going to go wrong? We don't think about our limbs, we think about our wallets.
McCartney now looking to bring the proximity through the final sections. Montero contact across the line. Remember, look at the contact from Falvey. Rear bumpers flapping in the wind.
Fury starts to bring the Fury. Look at this, Doyle right out to the wall, tags the wall.
Keating running wide, getting caught in a spin from Wesley Keating, handing the victory there to Jack Shanahan.
Conlon looks like he is on rails right now.
Almost contact. Side by side as Mondello Park is completely lost in smoke.
Whenever you go out with a driver you know is really good and you really want to have a good battle with them, you sort of get hyped up in the line. You just can't control it, you're raring to go.
Lee Scott taking on Andy Earl.
In this incident, two drivers were just going up the straight. I was doing what I was told to do in briefing and the chase driver just made a slight mistake and it caused a big eruption in the car.
Oh! Big contact!
The wheel come off, the brake pipes has burst, all the arms was bent, the coilovers was bent. And coming back into the pits, you're thinking how much money is it going to take to fix the car, and we really worked hard over the winter and spent a lot of money on it.
I was probably a bit too eager off the line and I was just waiting for him to catch up then, and I was obviously in the wrong position of the track. Hopefully Lee's alright and just send me apologies to him, I suppose.
It doesn't put you down as much as you would think, but you're just thinking, am I going to get out again? Am I going to fit to compete? You're thinking, oh, everybody's getting their fix, but at the same time, you're thinking the more of the money side comes into it too. You work with a tight budget, you sort of just make do with what we had to try and get out again, because the team feels that they need to do their bit for me, but really whenever you step back and look, like I would be lost without them if I didn't have a good team.
They're coming in hot again.
Yeah, Earl taking a corner with him through the first section. Just staying with him and just keeps this car going. As they throw down onto the wall. Got bringing the proximity, more contact as they cross the line.
And I can announce that winning the battle is Lee Scott. That is true warriors on track there. After a massive collision, they get back out and get the job done.
This weekend, I don't think my team can be stopped. We have two incidents, they've got it fixed again. That really puts belief in me. Whenever my car breaks, I'm fit to come into the pits, and my team is raring to go, and it doesn't matter what you throw at them, they will fix it and they will make it work.
Drifting has progressed an insane amount since I've been involved. We started off with guys, driving their cars to the events. They were just rolling in with wedges on them, putting a spare set of wheels on. Now you've got full race teams. And to be honest, now people are so competitive at the sport, the prize is so high to be that superstar, that they're taking every advantage they can. And some of the teams on the grid are almost like watching a professional motorsport team anywhere in the world.
Introduce yourself and what you do.
To you, at the camera. To you. Hi, Josh. You know me. Yeah, my name is Darren McNamara. I'm the owner of Group D. I basically do everything drifting, modify cars from starter cars to full-on professional race team service. It's important to have a structure within what you're doing. People don't have a structure like we do. It comes from professional motorsport background in the USA. Doing Formula D myself for so many years with such a big high budget team, it brought in a level of engineer and crew chiefs that ran professional motorsport in other formula, so to speak. These cars are very expensive, the customers are spending a lot of money, it's a lot of responsibility to get turned over a vehicle worth a lot of money to you to run. One mistake can cost a lot of money. It's about structure. It's like any corporate business, you just middle manage, mini manage everything and try and make everything as simple as possible and try not to confuse anything. Plus the preparation is everything. So everything you can do in the workshop, between tricks like setting up spare control arms to exactly the correct length and not having to measure when you swap them out in a 5-minute rule that they're the right lengths because you put them on at home and set them to the right line. Things like that you learn down through the years. It's huge pressure in the pits. A mistake on the engine side of things, it could be a 40 grand engine, you know. So to have that responsibility, everything, they're so complex, electronics, everything, one wrong move, it's your responsibility. And if something goes wrong, something breaks, something blows up, then it's going to be scrutinized because people are paying for a service, so everything must be prepped perfectly. I like this side of it, you know, I love drifting, and when everything goes right, it's great, but it's so much pressure. And I mean, if I had one of those watchy step counter thingies, it would just explode.
All the nerves leave you as soon as you let the clutch out. Then all you think about is, let's get to this guy next to me, let's beat him.
Big entry for both of them again, well, all over Ross Bar. Alan Hines looking very smooth.
For both drivers.
McBurney looking good here, nice and fast.
We are moving on to our top 8.
Adrenaline is overtaken nervousness. This is the up from drifting.
Conlon looks to send up the smoke and blind McBurney. Conlon's off the track. Conlon goes 4 wheels off the track. Overtake from McBurney. Here we go, Mondello Park. Shanahan, problems for Shanahan, and he shoots off circuit, Dave.
What happened there?
We did a burnout and I felt a little vibration through the gearbox. Like I thought it was a prop shaft. And then I took off, and when I got to the end of the straight it was pretty bad. So I decided it was easier to call it. Brand new car, I don't want to cause any more trouble than I already had, so I'm just done. I just didn't want to chance it because we put this round down on paper as a shakedown and a test for a GT86. The vibration might be something very small or it might be something very big, and if we were to continue to run, it could have turned 10 times more than what it is as of right now. You know, like we don't even know if it's going to need anything to like repair. It might be just something that has come into the car, but it just made more sense to not like cause more damage if something is a little bit wrong.
But if they lose in a battle and they have a good battle, it's great, you know what I mean? But like when they come in and if the tyre breaks or, you know, if the car breaks down, it's really tough, like, you know?
Well, like it's still good points on the board, like, and there's more rounds there to make up for it again, so we don't exactly have to put it down to what happened today. So I've had a top 8 finish before and I've won a championship, so it might happen again.
Being a track manager in the competitions, you get to see a lot more that people don't see. So like when I'm standing in the tower, I'm standing directly in front of the commentators, which is Dave and Eddie. I see everything. I talk to them more than people realise. They talk to me, they pass on messages, I pass messages back to them. But around one, I'd say about halfway through the top 16, I could just see Dave's body language changing. Like, you know, you could always have a bit of banter, but he obviously was super serious. You know, he'd crack a smile when he said something funny or things like that, but he was just a different guy, and I could see something different in him.
One of the most difficult things about my job is that I'm trying to present the show while also behind the scenes run the show. And there are certain things that people don't realise in that. Like, for example, we don't take the ticket revenue in Mondello Park. We are under obligation with the cost of the event to hit a certain target. And if we don't hit that target, then we're in trouble. The problem is that you mostly get that phone call or that information right in the middle of the top 16, because that's when people stop coming through the gate. So I got the call that we were down on target, quite a considerable amount down on target. And it's really a hard thing to do because in the back of your mind, you're worried, you're so almost depressed because you put so much work and effort into this event. But at the same time, for the people that are there and are watching, you've got to try and do as much as you can to keep them entertained and be positive. So it's almost like pretending to a certain extent for the sake of the show. At that particular time, we also have a live stream where I can see the comments coming in. Now, the reason I look at the comments coming in while we're broadcasting is mostly for technical reasons, whether the mics have dropped out or something's an issue or something's wrong, or maybe someone's confused about what's going on and I need to clarify it. On that particular day, I had a lot of pressure on my shoulder with the start of the new season. I probably didn't behave the way I wanted to. simply because of some of the comments that were made. I can take criticism of myself, I can take criticism of the event or the judging or the format or anything like a normal sport, but on that particular day, some of the comments were very personal towards me, but more importantly, they were towards the people around me. People try and ramp up, their insults to get reactions. If they don't get a reaction, they go for a more insulting reaction. And I was reading this, it made me very angry. I sort of lost thought of where I was. I was kind of thinking, why the fuck would you bother, putting all this effort and time and your life into something to try and make it brilliant for everybody, not just for you. And I made a reaction on live stream. It's the first time I've ever done it. I definitely regret it, where I sort of implied that if you weren't at the event, then you weren't a true fan.
There's a culture now in the world of people watching live streams and thinking they're involved. Camera positions are wherever they are. They're convenience just for people to watch at home. Obviously, no one's paying for it. It's just a bit of fun to promote the sport outside of that. But when you're here in attendance and in the grandstand, it actually looks so much different. Yeah.
And I don't think that was literally what I was saying. What I wanted to say was that if you're at home commenting negatively, you're of no fucking use to the event. You're of no use to the community. So just go away. But you can't play into that, and I shouldn't have. And I think it was taken, wrongly by a lot of people who couldn't genuinely make the event and felt I was targeting them, which I obviously had made a mistake in the way I'd worded it, and I publicly apologized for it after the event. But it was definitely the most stressed out I'd been in the tower. I was feeling very defeated. There was nothing positive coming out of the situation, and you're still in the middle of the show. You're still shouting and screaming about battles, and in the back of your mind, it's like you've split into two people. One person is massively depressed, and then the other person is, jumping around excited about what's going on track. So it becomes very difficult to keep yourself together, and that was one of the few moments I had where, I was human and I slipped. But the crazy thing about drifting is that no matter what personal situation you have, no matter how you feel, no matter what your opinion is, the sport comes first. So you have to bury it, you have to swallow it, and you have to go out and give 100%. So even though I was not happy, I was still going to do the best for the guys that were on the grid. And I knew that I had that responsibility to make sure the show was perfect for them, because they were putting just as much into the show, and they were killing it towards the end of that event.
Perfect lead run here from Caldwell. There's no separating these two drivers.
Caldwell versus Hines. Young guns on the green, all the hunger in the world.
Look at the proximity as they go wheel to wheel, laying down the line, bringing it to the door, through the final sections and over the line, Montello Park.
The results are dropping in.
Yes! Right, tyres. Difficult call. They both made mistakes, so we'll get there. Ryan had qualified first, so I knew he was going to be good. So chasing him in, I launched in hard behind me. And I slightly misjudged it. I took the whole front wing off the side of my car.
Caldwell throws it in, Hines right there with him. No mistakes from Caldwell.
The wing gone from Hines' car. He has to put this to bed here. And he goes right to the back bumper. One last dive from Hines onto the door. Manos flying off the car.
I think we had a huge advantage after that. Turned it around and I initiated, and I was still in my diesel zone, and Ryan had hit quite hard.
And he's going for it as well.
Wheel to wheel contact.
He got a little heated, I suppose. I think he was just frustrated that I didn't power on when he expected me to. I don't blame him. I would have done the same thing. There's times I hit people, and I've hit people many times, and I got out of the car and that guy brake checked me, or he let off the gas. Then they watched it back and it was like, nah, probably not. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and he might have probably watched it back and seen, look, I was probably kind of wrong,
Alan Hines is going to the final.
It's not the way I wanted to win, but look, we're gone through. I don't know who we're up against now, but we'll try to do our best, and hopefully the car is okay. And we'll see how far we get on.
There's nothing broken of it, so you just have to run it launch.
I spare tyre rod's alright, but it's going to take too long to get that in.
Fucking stop in for nothing. There's no play or nothing. There's a bit of movement in the rack though. It probably took a bit of wobbling, but nothing that's broken.
Lee Scott, Mark McBurney, these are two guys that have gone out and proved their worth at the top level. This is a dogfight right now between McBurney and Scott, two of the best in the business right now, and one of them's going to the final. Here we go.
Scott going for the door, McBurney going for the wall. Scott hunting again. Scott is right there with him, but he's having difficulty maintaining fluidity. They throw it down onto the wall. McBurney bogs down. Scott throws it onto the wall.
He's got a misfire. McBurney drops the wheels, hammering the car home. McBurney's going to the final.
So getting through from the top 4, whenever I put Lee out, I was over the moon, because that was me into my first final, and it was like second was the worst I could come away with, so it's the best I'd ever did. I went from top 32, top 16, top 8, top 4, and things are getting really tight. There's no such thing whenever you get a top 4 who's a good driver. Everybody just drives the same. Everybody just wants to leave the start line. Everybody's just flat out, and everybody just tries to push hard.
Caldwell needs them in. Scott with that car not performing perfectly, but can he find something to get him on the podium? Hops and bangs and tries to find some ground, find a way back into this one.
Today I've battled my way up. I was happy with the car. I've got put out in the top 4 against Ryan Cadwell. I came 3rd. To be honest, I'm not upset or I'm not like happy about it. It's Ryan done an awesome chase run, and it was enough to give him the win. Like, I'm all for that. At the same time, I'm more than happy that my team was fit to get the car fixed and we're fit to get out. And to round up the weekend, it's just, for me to get so far and what we've came through, I'm really looking forward to round 2.
You right, Alan? Going into the final, like, we battled Ryan. It wasn't the way I wanted to win, of course, but look, that's drifting. We'll take it. We'll move on. And going into the final, one of the guys in the pit said to me that Mark was a bit inconsistent.
You're going to win this like you have it, like just keep doing what you're doing. McBurney's after getting it, he's all over the place. He's making huge fucking mistakes.
You're not only a spotter, I mean you're there to calm the driver down. You're there to keep things on track, you know, be that voice of reason in the middle of a heated moment. All this, you know, half of it is psychological. A lot of guys are beat before they even leave the line. When things get stressful, and it happens an awful lot, you need that calming person on the end that you trust, and if they tell you, go out, do this, and you're going to win, you have to trust in them completely, do it, you know, you make a team, it's a package.
Going in, I was like, right, look, launch it in, hope for the best, and you know, if we crash, we crashed.
He's one of them drivers that you know he's going as hard as he can, so you can as well.
McBurney leads in Hines, into the first car, Hines dives in.
Very aggressive, Dave. Hines overly aggressive, but keeps it. McBurney dropping wheels, Dave. Dropping wheels is about the only mistake that we've seen.
Fire into that first corner, the gap initiate, but look at McBurney dives!
Yeah, big gap on the entry there, but Alan Hines hitting the cone. McBurney now right on the door, wheel to wheel, they almost make contact. McBurney now needs to pile the pressure on, needs to find something. Hines takes it to the wall with pinpoint accuracy and across the line.
Taking second position is Mark McBurney!
Whenever you get that good result, that definitely does, it makes all the hard work worth it. Like, it's a nice wee payoff. Even it's just, you know, it's just nice to get rewarded.
I've always believed I can win the championship. I believe I can win Formula D. I believe I can win Drift Masters. Like, I always believe better than what I'm probably at, because I think that's the only way I can motivate myself to kind of actually achieve it. And this year, now, like, to getting a win at the start, I think has put a really good position for the season. Of course, Jack was a new car and Connor wasn't his own car, so we had it a little bit easier, but I'm sure we can take those guys on and beat them too.
Looking back on that event, it was bittersweet. I mean, I was super proud of those young drivers that went out there and just tore the place down. I've watched all of those top 4 drivers come in as nervous kids, and to see them all progress to this point where they were out there stealing the show, getting thousands of viewers, having people screaming from the stands. That's what it's all about. Like, I think the driving was even better than we've seen in previous years, and it made us really excited about what the rest of the season was going to be. On the bitter side of things, we knew we'd made a big loss at round 1, so, you know, we left there with a lot of criticisms. I think we overthought about the criticisms toward the end of the event, and I think we left that event quite negative. I think the team, the heads were down. There wasn't much celebrating at the end of that event, and we'd put a lot of time and effort into building it. So you assume that the following and the fan base that you've had on the previous brand will just follow on. It's essentially kind of the same thing. However, we weren't sure if that was a massive hindrance to round 1. You know, attendances were down, viewership was down. Is it a case that the gamble hadn't paid off, that people were not aware we were doing any more events, or was it just an off weekend? Was it something that randomly happened? Sometimes people are busy, something else was on, and it wasn't their first choice. So we didn't know, but it did scare a lot of us, especially with, you know, big predictions of what we were going to do this year. We'd already made a loss straight off the bat, so it doesn't bode well for where you're going and how ambitious you're going to be for the rest of the year. I think we had to take both the rough with the smooth on that one, and with the financial losses on the first event, I think it was all going to come down to Dún Laoghaire, and Dún Laoghaire had been a huge success for us the couple of years before, so we were all looking forward to that, and we hoped it would be the event that turned it around, but as you know, there's no guarantees in this game.
Next time on Smoke and Mirrors.
Dún Laoghaire is probably one of my favourite events.
Oh, me nose. You don't have the shit to be breaking shit like.
Kind of frustrates me more when somebody says they can't down.
No pop noodles did wonders like that.
Now what you get at?